So GPT-5 just came out 5 seconds ago, and everyone's peeing their pants over it. And so I wanted to show you what I built with it. I had it just build a simple AI agent that you ask it a question, and all it can do is write code to answer the question. It can't just answer it directly. And I think that is really interesting. I'm going to show you that in a second. But first, I want to preface by saying that I've made a couple $1 million online, the online business, and I don't say it to brag. I just say that because I feel like it gives me a perspective on the AI thing. Like, for example, right, the internet has allowed an idiot like me to make millions of dollars with like courses and software from a laptop. And so, right, the AI is kind of like the next level. Right, the internet gave us a lot of power, like I guess personal computers, like Apple or something, gave us a lot of power. So AI is like now it's even more potential leverage if it doesn't kill us all. And so, right, so I realized I can make a robot from my laptop here that can solve any problem for me. And let me show you that real quick right now, which is and sick, works great. I totally know it. All right, anyway, so now it's running, and let me just grab this. And so we're going to ask it, what's the price of Bitcoin? I don't know anything about Bitcoin, but there's like APIs out there on the internet, right, that can answer that type of question. Right, another computer on the internet. And so I'll run this, and we'll see what it's doing here. Basically, if it's doing anything, it's going to write a code to go connect to that computer to get the data from it. And so, yes, and I know if you're an actual real programmer, like this is scary because you shouldn't have it write code uncontained. Usually you would do it in some contained, safe environment somewhere else and just get the output, right? Because this could just Skynet me and, I don't know, siphon all my data. I don't know how fast or slow GPT-5 is, so I feel like... Oh, there it goes. So you can see, if I get the hell out of the way, that it's doing something interesting. Not what I expected. Yeah, there it goes. It was pretty slow, but anyway, that's not the point. The point is, yeah. So look, it wrote a function, and I imagine it went and talked to some computer on the internet and figured it out. So that's cool. Like we could change it to be like, whatever. I think I like to ask it other questions. So basically, right, in the old days, where like ChatGPT first came out, it was just guessing the next word. That right, it was all it would do was make a word and then be like, what's the next most probable word? And then it was just so advanced though that it did make sense. But it could never do math or do anything. But now that these things can write code and go interact with the real world and then think about that, it can be pretty smart. So if I could ask it like, what's the 109th prime number or whatever. And then it'll just write some code to like do the math. And in the early days, if it was just a regular large language model, it would never do that right. See, there it goes. So it just wrote some code, and it's going to tell me 599. We could check that, but that's probably right. So anyway, my point is that, what is my point? The internet, right? One person can make a 7-figure company and be like really the only person, right? In the back in the day, yeah, one person could have a $1 million company, and you would have 100 employees, and you'd have to like, it would just be right. The margin would be like, and then you made $5. Now, right? There's one person out there. There's doing millions of revenue from the laptop. And I think it was Sam Altman or I don't know, some evil Skynet person, I think, was like, it's not too long before we see one person $1 billion companies. And you can see that. So basically the lesson, right? You can create so much value now that's unbelievable. And you can also capture some of that as money. And then feed some of it back into the building more value and right. So the last thing I wanted to point out too, I was thinking about this, was that like, right, Jarvis is Tony Stark's assistant, and I think what's normal for us is we're like either or we were just always wrong, and really Tony Stark should have just been like, Jarvis, can you do all this stuff for me, and then I'll just take all the credit. But the lesson I like to take from it is that we should be using these tools to augment ourselves, not be replaced by them. And so, right, I can be more of an artist. I can be more of a person that creates things with these tools. And so I try to remember that, to not let it replace me, to augment me and to make me more me. So that's what we want to do with these tools. So how can you apply this? I mean, this is how I've been applying it to myself, which is like, I just look at, every time I made this Loom video, I'm going to add it to a list, and I'll just look at, after a couple of days, here's all the stuff I did. And then I'll be like, how valuable was that task, right? Like cleaning up the ants that are invading my kitchen right now. That's probably like a $5 an hour task. I can't replace that with robots yet, but, and then there's like, making writing an email or something like that. That maybe that's a $10,000 task, because over that email will last for years and generate value or whatever. And so I want more of those tasks and less of the other tasks. And so I can start to delete them. I could get a VA or something. But now we also have like, well, can we just have a robot do a lot of that stuff? And I'm already using things like, these aren't like AI robotic tools. Well, these two are. All right, if we want to stick to the AI conversation, Whisper Flow is really good, because I'll write this. I'll be like, hey, do this, robot. I need you to go add this thing to my schedule and do all these things. And then you can put that into ChatGPT or whatever, right? So using that instead of typing is a big time saver that adds up. And these are simple, but others, Fathom, or something like that, where every time I do a Zoom meeting, like there's a robot that comes in and like takes all the notes. And then, because I'm not gonna remember any of that shit, because then I'll go, like when we meet, we'll talk about a ton of stuff, and then later I talk to the recording, and I go, hey, what should I be doing right now? And they'll be like, here's all the things that we talked about. Like, okay, thank you. I'm so much more productive just from like these simple types of tools. And then obviously there's all this other crap. So anyway, those are my thoughts on it. That's the video. I don't know. It just felt like I like to talk about this, and so I'm sure there's a lot more useful things to do with this, but it was just the thing of like, my God, there's a robot that can write more robots and just solve any problem, basically. I mean, the next level from this would be it has a bunch of, I don't know, legs and arms, and it could, geez, I don't know why I described it like that. It's super scary. But if it could really interact with the physical world, that, then it could do even more stuff. But already it can interact with like the outside digital world, which is super powerful. So anyway, there you go. Goodbye.